Okay, so uh, I'm I'm getting my act together. If you guys have been following me, you know that I've been going back and forth with a lot of things with my mixing, and I have just, you know, I wanted to figure out how to make this like simple and streamlined, and um, I was trying to initially just do like channel strips, like as my primary thing. And then and I was like, oh, but I want Fab Filter because I just want to see everything, right? And then I did some mixes with like Fab Filter and a compressor. And it was cool, but I don't know. It it still, there's just something like in my mind. I mean, first of all, a lot of my favorite records were all mixed on SSLs and with SSL. And also just that feel of that the two-handed, and I don't know, like I watched some mixing tutorials the other day, and I was watching some people work and mix, and I went up and I fired up because I had Brainworks SSL 4000 on everything. And if I'm being totally honest, I don't dig that plugin. There's something about it. It's just, I don't know. There's something about it. I don't particularly like the sound of some aspects of it, but also it's confusing. It's got a lot of this and that and this and that, THD and that and this. I just don't like it. What I liked was the SSL native plugin. I thought it sounded better. It was horizontal, and so I pulled it up and I was going down the line and kind of messing with it, and I was like, man, I just like this better. And then I put it across everything, and I was doing some like mixing like from scratch with it. And I was like, oh, I just like the way this thing works. I like the way it sounds. And then somebody said, oh, they came out with a new version, a 2. It's by SSL. It's called SSL Native Channel Strip 2 and SSL Native Bus Compressor 2, Bus Comp 2. So I was like, oh, and I looked it up, and I didn't know, like, I was like, well, I couldn't figure out how to, like, I couldn't figure out if I had it or not with my first license. So I just downloaded the trial plugin of it, or just the plugin, and it worked. And then then later on found out that if you have SSL native, you have native too. You don't have to pay for it. The other thing too is, I guess SSL went through some sort of a weird transition. So none of your information prior to like June is now on the new site. And I don't know how that works, but like when I logged into my SSL account, it wouldn't let me log in. It kept saying bad password. They switched the passwords. So I put a new password, went into my account, what software I had, what licenses I had, my order history, it was blank. And then I was like, well, I remember I originally bought it through Gobbler as like a subscription, and then I said, I don't want a subscription, I just want to buy it. And I paid whatever, $150, and bought it. This was last year. So I'm going on to Gobbler's showing no account, and then finally I contact SSL, which that didn't really answer the question. I found out somebody was talking about it. Basically, they just have like blown out their whole thing, and you're starting from scratch. But all your licenses are still good, but they're not. So anyway, I pull in this EQ, or this channel strip, SSL native channel strip 2, and it's killer. It's killer. And I wouldn't say that it was night and day difference sound-wise from the original. It sounded very similar, but this is it. And it's perfect. And just the layout, it sounds, to me it's perfect. It sounds absolutely amazing. And It works absolutely amazing. And I mean, the gates on it and the top end. I mean, this band here for vocals, I mean, it's lights out compared to anything else. I mean, personally, the Brainworks doesn't even, it's not even, it's okay, but this to me has the most incredible sound. So I download this and I start mixing a little bit, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, so maybe I'll do this, put it across everything, and then I end up on my travels of figuring out some things. I find the UC controller, UC1 it's called. It's basically an SSL controller that runs this plugin, and it works off of also an app called SSL 360. So you could actually just like have this as your mix, and you can, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how cool this thing is. And you don't need that to do it. But anyway, so this is the controller, and it's, it's a little bigger than the Avid set. It's smaller than the Avid S1. So I've basically, you guys can't see it, but I've scooted everybody a little over, and there's a big gap here because it's coming. And the way this thing works, it's absolutely unbelievable. And actually, you can literally mix, if you set up this with on every channel, let's say, and you didn't use anything else, you could basically mix with the monitor off. You don't have to look at the screen. Because the thing was, because I love FabFilter, because I can see the problems and stuff, but the FabFilter had me, first of all, being lazy, second of all, mixing more with my eyes, and third, it had me glued to it. It was everywhere on every channel. I watched that FabFilter EQ3 screen sometimes when I was mixing for 5 or 6 hours a day, every day, just figuring, oh, okay, I see that, which that's not a bad thing, but I don't know, man. That's not how, I don't know. Anyway, I think that this is going to be amazing. So, basically, a couple of things that I've done differently, and we're going to wrap this video because I got to start teaching. But I have a summing mixer, a Burl B32, but I'm only using 8. I'm using 4 stereos because I'm coming out of the second part of my Avid HDIO. So I've got drums, and I think I talked about this in the last video, but this is like this is the precursor video for what's about to go down, which we'll get into in a second. But I had drums going out, which 1 and 2, which was technically on the Avid was 9 and 10. Drums going out 9 and 10. All the music going out 11 and 12. All the vocals and backgrounds going out 13, 14, and then all the effects out 15 and 16. And watching a few people, I thought, you know what, let me try something. Let me try sending the bass and drums out together and then all the music. So not having the bass go through the same path as, guitars, cellos, synths, whatever. And I printed one with and I printed one without, and it was different. It was... And I don't know if it was the bass and the kick going through the same thing, through same hardware, through the same thing on the Burl B32, but it was like, it felt more, it had more rhythm to it, or I don't know, I just liked it. So we did that. So we switched that. The other thing too, that I was watching this video on Produce Like a Pro with some dude mixing a pop rock song. I don't even know who he is, but he's good. But he was talking all about his template, about having separate effects for the main elements. Like he had a set of drum effects, he had a set of kind of music effects. He split it like guitar effects and synth effects, then having separate effects for his backgrounds, and then effects for the vocals. And then you can cross-pollinate them however you want. But I thought, because I always kind of knew about that, but I just didn't do it. I don't know if I was just lazy or what. But I had a set of 8 effects down on the right side, room, plate, hall, quarter note, eighth note, delay, split harmonizer, gated reverb, whatever, and everything went through there. And what led me up to this is I got done with a mix about a week ago, and it sounded nice. I mean, it sounded cool, but I had that moment of clarity where I could hear my own deficiencies. Like I was like, but I could really hear it. And I was like, whoa. It was a couple of things. And one in particular was just this thing with the effects, like just an overarching, and back in the day, I mean, obviously when people started making records in the 50s and 60s and whatever and 70s, a lot of places only had one reverb, so everybody went into the reverb. And the thought was, you want to use everything global because you want to have it, you want to create like everybody's in the same room, whether they are or not. I think that's cool in some things, but I think in dense pop rock and hard rock and with all it's just so dense that it becomes, I don't know. So anyway, that's what I did. That's what I've done differently here. So the drums, here's my drum, this is my template. So here's all my kick sub, snare sub, my kick and snare crush, my tom sub, my overs sub, my room sub, and then I have a separate like drum crush and grit. So I have a kick, crush, and grit, which is like whatever 1176, and probably decapitator. Yeah, and I'll switch that out, and then the grit is a fatso. This is the overall drum, and then Sound Toys Devil Lock. And you can mix it around. It doesn't make a difference. But all of this now is no longer going into the main effects. It's going into these 5 here, which I liked his template, and he was a really good mixer, and listening to him mix this song was like, dang, man, I thought it was great. I think he's a friend of Warren Hewitt's. I can't think of his name, but he's really good. So I just basically just said, oh, okay, well, I'll just take his thing. And here's where I'm using, I'm doing this as a starting point on the EQ. I also gained coming into the plugin, onto the effects, because I found that when I started switching my gain staging and keeping my tracks lower at like kind of minus 15, minus 18, minus 20, I couldn't get enough juice sometimes to the effect. So, but that also could be that everything was going through the same effect. That's the other thing I noticed with this new setup. I'm able to mix more. I don't want to say conservative, but it feels like I can hear everything better. So anyway, but this is what he had. He had a plate. He had an AMS, Neve, like a gated verb. These I did mono. And then I mono to stereo, and then I did stereo across here, which is a 224. He had like a lexicon, I just put a drum room. This is what I've got to figure out as I start mixing what I like. And then I got a drum big, a DR big, which is just vintage verb right now, just concert hall. And then my tom thing, this is kind of, I got it from the Andrew Sheps video, and I just like it. It sounds cool. Anyway, that's it, percussion. So, but you'll see, you've got 5 tabs here and then 5 tabs here. The bottom tab of the first block of 5 is empty across the board. It's empty on every track. It's empty on everything, because what's on it is the channel strip. And it's across, it's going to be from now on, whenever we work, we're going to leave that always empty. And what I did was the one above it is where I'm putting in Pro QL. So I had, or Pro QEQ, Pro Q3. I had Pro Q3 above all this, above all these. These are all the different SSL channels, but I'm not. I want to start make. I want this. I don't want to be looking at. I can always fire up a fab filter if I want. That's easy, but that's it. And you'll see they're straight across. They're all there. So then when I get into, if I mix on the thing with the 360, I can literally just go through my whole mix. And this is, because before I had EQs, I had compressors, I had gates and all that stuff. I'm just going to focus on this, and because it sounds, it's unbelievable. And when I was at Mix at the Masters, one thing that the dude there that was teaching at the time said was that he felt that he liked the style of mixing where everything was more the same. Like he said, my favorite records, it wasn't like they didn't have like 9 different preamps and 30 different this and 20 different that, mixing and matching everything. It was like if you tracked on a Neve, everything was Neve. If you mixed on an SSL, everything was SSL. He liked that sound. So that's kind of a part of what's got me on this journey. And there it is. They're just across the board on all the subs, and they're even on the parallels. So the parallel Kick Crush has the 1176, but I still have the channel on there. It's 0. You could bypass it or whatever. But if I listen to that Crush track and I realize, I want a little more top end, I've got it right here. Or if I want to double compress it and hit it a little bit with the SSL, or I can do whatever I want, right? It's a free country. We can do whatever we want. And that's what we got to call these. Drum. Hold on. 224. I'm literally finishing this this template. I just made some more changes. You know what I've learned to do that's been cool, and I've always been kind of afraid of doing it, but I did it, and it's fine. You can just grab these buses and move them all around, and then they change the order, and it works perfect. So I set up my I.O. totally in line, like from kick, snare, this, that, to the next thing is, kick, snare, tom, rooms, then kick key, then tom verb, then drum percussion. No, this would then go here. Oh no. Why is that now called tom verb? All right, hold on. Let me see what I got here. T verb. So tom verb left and right is not even active anymore. Okay, so that's what it is. So, this is like literally the last of the dialing in. Every now and then you'll just see a mistake. So 21, 22. So this would be then bus 20, 23, 24. Bus 23-24. And there you go. And then we'll export settings, set it up on this, replace, boom, done. Okay. So now that's gone. But this is what I've been doing the last couple of days, is really dialing this thing in. Yeah, there you go. So it's done. There it is. 20 now, and moving out things that are dead, that are not being used, and moving them down the line. So now it's really perfectly sequential. And then you come here, and we've got bass, crush and grit. I had it named Mammoth because that's the plugin. I was like, let me just call it grit, just to keep continuity. And then what I did was I added VCAs for drum effects, music effects, BGV effects. The vocal effects is the normal one or the natural one. The other thing I added on here is I also named everything right. I had things like half named right. Now everything's like G3 sub, and then the input here is G3 sub. So, because one would say G3 sub, and then the bus said G3. So I'm like, let's keep this really simple. So I've got 3 guitars, rhythms, whatever. I've got a solo sub. I've got an acoustic sub, and that's the other thing I moved the solo over, which should be, I'm kind of checking this as I go. Solo, acoustic, yeah, keys. And the other thing this guy had was he had a bunch of different subs for his keys, and I'm doing a lot of pop now, so he was talking about like treating the piano, so I always had just keys, so everything went through it: piano, sawtooth synth, cello, whatever was not in the guitar thing. And then I would do a general EQ or whatever, a general thing, and then I could go into the specific tracks and EQ them, or do something, or put an echo on just this one thing. But I'm not into that anymore. So I added a keys sub, which is going to primarily be more organic stuff like pianos, organs, Wurlitzers, Fender Rhodes maybe. And then I've got a synth sub, which is going to be obviously Omnisphere, Serum, all that stuff. And then I've got a strings sub, which can be also pads, like things that are very legato, that are not like they're like, whatever. You can use it or not use it. And if you have something extra that you want to use on it that's different than what it says there, you just change the name and go. And then we've got Music Crush and Grit. And now I've got music effects here. So now you'll see I've got my music effects here. Right. I'm just making sure everything is good. I've been changing it. But so now, and again, these effects now are not going through the drums. But let's say for some reason you wanted to put this guitar in your drum room, you could just add it and put it on there. It's easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Music Crush, and that's across the board on all of them. And again, it's that same thing, that lower, the fifth one of that first bank, I guess it's E, is always going to be channel strip. Nothing else will be on there. That's so it's easy. Let me see. I think there's a way to. No, what is it? How do you do that? I can't remember. I know there's a way to enlarge this. Whatever. But it's just so that it's stays consistent. You'll see I got Pro Qs, and those are on the tab above it. They're always there. And then you come to the vocals, and there again is the channel strips. And then I've got all my multi-band and the different things that I use treating on the vocals. And then the vocals come to their parallel compressions. And, I could add them here too. I didn't want to add them unnecessarily, just because, I don't know, it's going to be a lot if I add them unnecessarily. I don't know. We'll see. Well, you know what? Maybe. No, it's going to be enough, because I'm going to have compression on the track. Then I have a parallel here that's going like Brower, kind of 1176, LA2, and Distressor. And then I've also got Vocal Crush, Vocal Grit, and a Vocal Air, which is the VMR, the Revival. Which, man, sometimes that's really nice. It really kind of helps you. And then you've got BGVs here, which have their own crush. I don't do a grit on BGVs because I never really, it's never in the, if I needed a grit, I could just send them, I could make a grit and send it somewhere or whatever. It's easy, and there you go. And then you come here and you've got your BGV effects, which I've just got room, hall, echo, and it says mob. It should be mod. Modulation. And this is a cool modulation. This little air chorus kind of sounds funky. I like it. And then you come down here, and now you've got these are the effects that I've been using, but now they're just for vocals. Room, plate, hall, whatever, all that stuff. And that's it. So this is the setup. And if I've got, I have the session cleaned up, ready to rock, sounding good. I can get this template in and get it level, get a little level in 20 minutes. 15, 20 minutes. And then, you're on your way. And I don't have any presets right now. Like, so Tarek is a lot of times is my primary drummer. He records. He has a full studio at his house. So once I get the first batch of songs done, I'll probably do saves, like presets, and I'll have, Tarek kick drum. And then when we do a new song, I can just click Tarek kick drum, and chances are it's going to get me close no matter what. It's got probably the right gate settings and basic EQ and compression because, everything's real consistent with him. So that's it. It looks like it's not a lot to me at all anymore. The more you watch these guys that are mixing at the highest level, you realize, like, these guys, most of them are mixing on a pretty intricate level. They're not just like, they're not messing around. There's that guy I've been watching too. Is another guy on, I don't know what he is. Daniel Aaron something. He's got like a Kobe Clay. And he's got a lot of stuff. And he's using hardware. And he's using this. And he's summing. Like, so, as far as it being like, oh, that's really like a lot and complicated. It's like, it really isn't. Not for where I want to go with this. It's really not that big a deal. And the bottom line is, everything flies in. All the subs fly in with all the effects. Buses are there. They're all 0, but they're all ready. You just go turn it up, and you want Tom Verb? There's Tom Verb right there. You got Tom Verb, It's easy enough. So, and it's just a matter of bringing in, solo safing the tracks and sending them out to the different inputs in these different subs, and then just leveling it. And we've started to kind of do a little bit of the gaining and the solo safing at the end of the session, so when we pull the tracks in, they're already ready to go. There's no solo safing. It's all already, you just, option solo safe or shift option. You just solo safe the whole thing. All right. That's it. So, Johnny Cotton. Here was better together last night. Meeting up. Uncle's calling to make an outreach. Okay. So many nice people in the world. All right. So if you have any questions, obviously, hit me up. But I think what I'm going to do is, like the next video, which is going to be the integration of this UC1. I'll upload this onto WeTransfer, and then you can download it, and you may or may not have the same plugins, but if you don't have the plugin, you'll see room. So if you don't have a TSAR or whatever, then you can just throw, Valhalla or Waves or whatever it is, your Logic plugins. It doesn't make a difference. Well, I guess in Logic you probably couldn't even open this, but Pro Tools anyway. All right. Jeez, look at it. And for anybody that's ever been intimidated by technology and all of this, I feel for you, because I was always very intimidated by this. When I was a kid, so I'm 57, so when I was a kid, like in 8th, 9th, 10th grade, my best friend was a computer nerd. This was a time when nobody was a computer nerd. This was really before computers. There were computers, but this was like 1979, 1977, 78, 79. He was into this, computers. And he thought it was the thing. He was a super genius dude too, like wicked high IQ. And I used to just think, first of all, playing in a band and learning how to play La Villa Strangiata by Rush is infinitely cooler than staring at a screen and looking at blips. Like, I didn't get it. I was like, computers, they don't, it's not even that they suck. They just did, what's the point? Like, I had no vision for it. but he did. So it was many years later that I got introduced really into computers. I remember in 1999, I was packing up to go on the road, and then I was going back to LA, and somebody I knew, he was like painting our home or something, my parents' home. He came over. Yeah, and he was like a cop too, I remember. I can see his face. He bought a computer, or brought a computer for me, and he gave me the computer and he showed me, and he said, yeah, there's this thing, it's kind of new, it's called the internet. Anyway, he showed me how to use like Corel Draw or something, because I wanted to make flyers for my band, and what an email was. I mean, so this was 1999. It was really the introduction, and people obviously were already like integrated into this thing, but I was not. And then getting into music, like all this stuff, I had a guy working at my studio that did everything. So it'd be like, I'd be working and be like, oh my God, there's a problem. And I'd just be like, Greg, and just walk out and just, there's no more Greg, there's no more person to call. It's me. And it's amazing. And so if you're intimidated by this stuff, good, because that means you have room to grow. And that's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else. There's no drama about it. And between YouTube and Google, you can figure anything out in like 30 seconds. I mean, just get on a Facebook group like Pensado Students, or the Duck, the Digi User Conference, or Gear Space. Now it's called Gear Space. And you can find anything out. So, yeah, like this thing with the I/O, like I remember when we first started doing this years ago with Greg, I was like, I don't know, it just was like, don't move it. How do I get back if I get lost? It's like, there's no getting back. We're moving forward. So if all this is intimidating, gotta suck it up, man, because you gotta be good at this. I meet so many people in music business. They're just like, oh, I'm just terrible at technology. It's like, really? So you're gonna like that's not even a valid excuse. It's like David Goggins says, man, I realized I wasn't good enough, so I had to make myself good enough. End of story. No excuses. So dig in, learn your craft the best you can. I'm still at it. I'm still getting better. I'm really serious about the next level, right? I'm 57. I got friends my age that are already retired. I'm like on the back nine, and I'm still digging in, man. Still room to grow. So, yeah, that's it. I got to go teach. When I get this UC1, I'll shoot a video and I will upload this Pro Tools template. And you guys can contact me. And this is not for me to get likes or put it in the comments, because it's going to somehow. There's no money transfer. These are not monetized. I'm not selling anything. So you can do the comments. You can email me at james@jameslugo.com. Whatever makes you happy. Yeah, that's it. Peace.